This episode of the Potterverse is brought to you by MinuteWithMary.com. All right, guys, so it's back to school, and for many people, it's going to be back to virtual school, but we all know that we want to look a little fancy on those little rectangles on our laptops and computers and iPads. One of the easiest ways to fake it, like you're feeling really pulled together, is by adding a coat of fantastic mascara. I'm going to tell you, wearing great mascara, having a great mattress, and having a comfy pair of shoes, wicked important.
The best.
Wicked important in life. So here's where you can get your wicked great mascara by going to minutewithmary.com/discount, because since you're listeners of ours, I'm going to give you a 15% off discount on my top best selling mascara. It's going to give you really dramatic black lashes. If that's not your jam and you need something else, just search the hashtag MinuteWithMary and I can help you out. From Providence, Rhode Island, welcome to the Potterverse. It's a podcast dedicated to the book and film universe of Harry Potter. So grab your favorite wands and your time turners. Let's step into the night and pursue that flighty temptress adventure. And welcome. My name is Mary Larson.
My name's Blake. And, I can't tell if I really want a real life sorting hat or not. Because I feel like it'd be great. But I also feel like it'd be terrifying in real life.
Yes, true.
Like to be categorized in whatever house or whatever, like...
At 11 years old.
Yeah, and just like, okay, that's what you are. Like,
yeah.
Can you like transfer? Can you transfer out?
Well, Dumbledore does come out saying that he thinks that maybe they sort people too soon. I mean, think about it. Think of who you were as an 11-year-old and what things in your life may have changed or opened your eyes or made you more or less brave or witty or sly or who knows what. A lot can happen. And to be 11 and a brand new student at this magical school and to know, hey, guess what? We're sorting you in a place that you're going to be in for 7 years, and they're going to be your best friends, and you're going to sleep in the same room as them. Oh, and if you mess up, they're going to be really mad at you because you're going to lose them some points. Right there, some peer pressure.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I just feel like, because, like, don't you grow as a person? Like, don't you, like, you evolve. Yeah, you evolve.
Sure.
Like, our kid's a Hufflepuff right now, but sure as heck, that our daughter is absolutely a Slytherin.
Yes.
So, like, I don't know. I feel like, it's a really cool thing. And for story purposes, I think it really serves a real purpose. We'll get into that later on. But, and I think it actually started a trend in a big way for a lot of different these style shows. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
All right.
So, which one are we reading today, my darling?
We are reading Chapter 7, the Sorting Hat. I was going to say the House Cup. Look at me. And I'm picking a pretty easy passage, but then I'm picking two passages to read to start this chapter off. Okay. Because I think two really cool things happened, and I want to make sure we get them by both. So this, of course, is said by the Sorting Hat. You might belong in Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. Their daring, nerve, and chivalry set Gryffindors apart. You might belong in Hufflepuff, where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid of toil. Or yet in wise old Ravenclaw, if you've a ready mind, where those of wit and learning will always find their kind. Or perhaps in Slytherin, you'll make your real friends. Those cunning folk use any means to achieve their ends.
Yes, Slytherin.
So that, of course, just kind of gives
Slytherin.
You the little bits that you need to know about the Sorting Hat. But the other part that I wanted to read was how Harry fell asleep almost at once. Perhaps Harry had eaten a bit too much because he had a very strange dream. He was wearing Professor Quirrell's turban, which kept talking to him, telling him he must transfer to Slytherin at once because it was his destiny. Harry told the turban he didn't want to be in Slytherin. It got heavier and heavier. He tried to pull it off, but it tightened painfully. And there was Malfoy, laughing at him as he struggled with it. Then Malfoy turned into the hook-nosed teacher Snape, whose laugh became high and cold. There was a burst of green light, and Harry woke, sweating and shaking.
There's also something that you're leaving out at the end of that, too. The last line. I'd like you to read the last line.
He rolled over and fell asleep again, and when he woke the next day, he didn't remember the dream at all.
That is very important.
Sorry.
Very, very important. I'm surprised that you left that
I was trying to be brief since I read 2 things.
I know, but it's fine. It's
brevity's sake.
Yeah, whatever. We're here. So I incredibly love what the author is doing here. She, again, has done this phenomenal way of giving you information and doing it in I like to call this the Jurassic Park method.
Okay.
By the way, hold on. Where is my...
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
I like to call this the Jurassic Park method because it's the dino DNA. Mm-hmm. The dino DNA aspect of Jurassic Park should be the absolute most boring thing in the world.
We took the frog.
Right. But what they did was that they turned it into a movie within a movie for the characters that we're watching. And it did it in an interesting way. And here we go again with the Jurassic Park method, the Dino DNA method, where the author is using the Sorting Hat, singing a song, singing a song, or just reading a poem, whatever it is, about the houses and telling you what the houses are, how they're characterized in an interesting way, especially when you're in the perspective of not only Harry, but all of the first years. Instantly, you get a sense of what is what, where people go, and you're already thinking, oh my gosh, where do I fit in? I hope I get X, Y, and Z
Where do
things.
I? AKA from Harry's perspective, because he's also like judging, you know what I mean? Like he's thinking like, oh, I hope I don't get Slytherin, and maybe I should be Hufflepuff. You know, he's thinking all these different things. He even thinks about how the Slytherin table, the people kind of look kind of mean and miserable.
Right.
So, you know, we're making all of these just early judgments about people, all really thanks to what Harry's heard from Gryffindors, mind you.
Yep.
And then what he's heard from the Sorting Hat. So it's a lot of tension. So the kids get their first glimpse into Hogwarts, and the entry hall itself is bigger than the Dursleys' house.
Oh, it's enormous. But before we get into all that, I just want to remind you, go to MaryandBlake.com, check out all of the great podcasts that we have there. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. Obviously, if you're hearing it on the podcast app of your choice for the first time, please. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Send us some reviews if you'd like, if you find some value in what we're doing here, breaking down Harry Potter, and whatever podcast app of your choice is. And if you find even more value in what we're doing, go to jointhenerdclan.com, be part of the Nerd Clan that we have established, all you nerds out there who want to talk about
in the
all
most
the
beloved
things.
sense.
Oh yeah, no, that is a term of endearment to me. Please do go to jointhenerdclan.com, become a member. They get all the great perks and all that, and we have all the great fun with that there. And check us out, Mary and Blake, on all of the social media that we got.
All right.
So that's that. You ready to get into the rest of the show?
I am.
Let's do it.
I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good.
So kicking things off, just a little recap of what happens in Chapter 7, The Sorting Hat. Professor McGonagall welcomes the first years into this grand building. We get to see a lot of the structure that happens inside Hogwarts, and the children learn about sorting. They learn about the different houses, and they get sorted. And they get to sit with these people who are now going to be their bunkmates, their classmates, their teammates. They get to see the teachers. They get to hear a couple of really interesting songs. Dumbledore tells them a few of the rules, including some so that they don't die a terrible death. And from there, Harry goes to bed and has a really weird dream.
That's how it works.
Hey.
That's how it works. So, wait, what strikes you fancy there, Marvin? How are we
Start
starting?
at the very beginning.
As we always
do. A very
do.
good place to start. I can't believe... See, you're not a fan of Sound of Music, so you never pick up what I'm putting down.
No, I pick it up. I just refuse to acknowledge it because I refuse to like that movie.
I can't.
I'm out on The Sound of Music.
Oh, my God.
And I know people hate me for it, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't matter to me. I'm out on The Sound of Music, just like I'm out on
okay.
Hufflepuff.
It's okay. We'll get through there. So as I was saying before, one of the cool things that happens in this chapter is Harry, mind you, Harry's world has been really small. Remember, his first time going to London was with Hagrid.
Yes.
So here he is going into this castle, and the vastness of it, the large structure, just the entry hall is bigger than the Dursleys' house. Mm-hmm. And Harry probably rarely went anywhere besides school or the Dursleys' house or like the occasional, I don't know, doctor's appointment or whatever they would have to drag him to. But he talks a lot about how things are in contrasts or how they would relate to the Dursleys. And I think that this is really interesting because that's all he knew. Mm-hmm. That was his home. And at the end of this book, home is now Hogwarts to Harry. Sure. But he talks about the grandeur of the plates and the cups and how, Aunt Petunia would have felt about it, or how she would have felt about the Sorting Hat with it being all ripped up and scruffy, but just the vastness of this. And you think about how often you do that when you visit places. Oh, it reminded me of XYZ. Or it was bigger than, that's all he had to relate it to. So I think that that's quite interesting for this little 11-year-old.
I totally agree. By the way, Rebecca Ann on Facebook here is saying, I'm out on The Sound of Music too, Blake. Thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's all good.
That's some good stuff right there. So this chapter is, again, an incredible world-building chapter for what they're trying to accomplish. The one thing I'm kind of out on in this chapter are the ghosts.
Okay.
I really don't care about the ghosts.
I know you don't, and that's because you weren't a book reader.
I mean, I was a book reader, but for half of the.
You know what? I'd like.
What?
Let's just table that, and we'll talk about ghosts in a little while, and we'll see how you feel about the ghosts / poltergeists.
Okay. I mean, I do understand that the ghosts do play a role, but I mean, even in this instance, we're going to table it, but even in this instance, I just feel like they're more of a distraction from the overall point that we're trying to make. Like they give whimsy to it all.
In the illustrated version, they're quite remarkable.
I totally agree. If you guys ever get the chance to read the illustrated versions, the ghosts look beautiful, far better than they ever did in the film.
Agreed.
The film, I get what they were trying to go for. Like they were trying to go for like an apparition style, but in the illustrated version, I mean, they're fully colored and they look gorgeous. I will totally give that.
So, they go up there and they meet the Sorting Hat. The Sorting Hat is one of 3 enchanted items that actually help decide a children coming to Hogwarts. This isn't talked about in this book, but it's something that I think I learned about on Pottermore. So basically, there's this special pen. Because remember how Hagrid said, "Blimey, Harry, like your name's been in the book ever since you were born." So there's this magical book of acceptance, I'm pretty sure, and this magical quill. And when a child is born into a wizarding family, they have to decide, this magical quill and this magical book, if the child is magical enough to be able to come into Hogwarts. And the pen might try to write the child's name down when they're born, but the book is much more picky. The book waits for the pen to write until they've proven themselves. They have to do something very magical. Harry killed Voldemort when he was born. So his name was down the moment he was born. Neville's parents rest in peace.
Cruciatus.
No. Neville's family kept trying to make him be magical because they were fearful that he was a squib, a non-magical person born into a magical family. And so it wasn't until Neville was 8 that his name was written in the book. And that's how sometimes families can have kids who are accepted into Hogwarts, like Lily Evans was, whereas her sister Petunia Evans was not. And also the book really wants to make sure that you've got enough magic that you'll be able to do the Hogwarts repertoire.
Right, exactly. Angela's saying, I don't get the ghosts. Are they dead wizards that hang around? What are the ghosts?
I need to get back to you because I'm still also trying to figure out the difference between ghost and poltergeist. I do believe that they were students. I don't know. Some of them were previous professors. I'll get back to you a little bit more. My ghost knowledge in the Potterverse is not as strong as my magical object knowledge. Or or magical creature knowledge. So we're introduced to a lot of characters that are also going to be coming up. This is one of the cool things. You know, it's September 1st. It's the first day of school. Fun fact, Hogwarts always starts school on September 1st, which I think is interesting because what if September 1st is a Sunday?
So what?
That's it. That's your day.
That's what you do. That's what happens.
Right?
I mean, you're going to private school. Who cares? Like,
yeah.
That's maybe your
or if
orientation.
It's like a Tuesday. Yeah. So you just all show up and your belongings get brought to your room by the poor house elves.
Right.
And everything's all well. So we get to meet McGonagall.
Again.
Through the children's eyes.
Yes.
And this is Harry's first time meeting a not so jolly, I mean, he's met Malfoy and Crabbe and Goyle, but like this is his first time where it's like, oh yeah, I'm in school. Like this isn't just going to be fun and frivolous and eating birdie bots every flavor beams. Like this is when ish got real for Harry.
Absolutely. And he also gets a chance to see Dumbledore for the first time.
Aside from his chocolate frog card.
Yeah, but like in person.
Yes.
And the characterization for Dumbledore here, and I can't wait to get your opinion on this. There is like, there's this thing that Dumbledore does when he's like, okay, now that all of you is sorted, I have a few words. And it's like,
oh, I love it.
Fezzywimple and Dingleberry and
no,
like
it's not. Hold on. Yes,
I can't remember.
I have a few words. Yes. What does he say? Because it's so sweet.
Nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak.
Love
Thank
it.
you. And he sat back down.
Love it.
Again, is this Dumbledore being?
This is Dumbledore being Dumbledore.
Right.
And this is like essences of Dumbledore that I love that I don't feel like were, especially in the latter movies, were brought to screen.
Especially movie 4, when Dumbledore is nothing but mean.
Did you put your name in the goblet?
Did you do that, Harry Potter? Harry Potter.
Like, calm down. Go eat a lemon sherbet. Dumbledore is
so
just a
mean in the fourth
wonky
movie.
guy, and I adore it because he's also is the greatest wizard of his age. But he can just do things like this, and this is when you get those little moments of he's mad. He's brilliant, but he's mad. And does it mean something? Do those little words mean something? No one knows.
Yeah, so it feels like, I mean, obviously he's putting up a front for everybody. He's playing the fool for a reason. Why do you think he plays the fool for a reason? Movies aside, just from this text alone, why do you think he plays the fool?
I don't think it's a fool. I think it's just whimsy. And I think because this is book 1, book 1, granted, someone's trying to kill an 11-year-old child in this book, but book 1 is young and it's whimsical and it's just full of magic and stuff that we don't get. You know, so I think that, you know, there's little things like even the fact, like, where does the food come from? We have no idea in book 1, and just kind of things to like put you off kilter about these people. You know,
Sure.
We need to sit there and say, is Dumbledore mad? We need to be there with Harry being like, I don't get this weird guy.
Sure, and because while I loved the song that the Hat sings about the again, it's just like, it's Dino DNA in the best way. What I can't get behind is the song that Dumbledore makes, the Hogwarts
I am
song.
shocked right now because can I just say
I am
one
out
word
on the song.
Can I just tell you one word about Dumbledore in this particular chapter?
Sure.
Yoda.
You're
looking for Yoda? I don't know him.
But that was a front for a very
Exactly.
specific purpose. That was a very specific thing.
I don't know. I just see Dumbledore very Yoda-like, okay? Like, I can do this, but also he's a little quirky, okay? There are some people, case in point, okay, us, who are a little quirky. And we're still functioning human beings.
I'm not a little quirky. I'm extraordinarily quirky.
Agreed. Same. So, I mean, and everybody's got their quirks. So I think this kind of gave me like a little Yoda vibe.
Yes, it did. And Yoda, again, in Star Wars, for those of you who don't know who Yoda is, I don't know who you are, but if you don't, it is what it is. Yoda is specifically like that for Luke. Although there is a tad bit of silliness in Yoda. Like, especially in The Last Jedi, when he strikes down the Jedi tree.
Yeah.
And he starts laughing at Luke again. But again, that's for Luke. So it's for a specific person, not for the entire Jedi Council or the Senate in the Republic. You know what I mean? So there are shades of Yoda. I will give you that.
Okay.
There are shades of that.
Okay, so we get to see these ghosts, and they talk about how they represent the different houses. They come up from behind the kids, and they're cheering, "Oh, I hope you're in this one." We get to meet the Fat Friar, who's just like, "I hope you're in Hufflepuff." And so we're meeting these characters, whether they're ghosts or the future classmates. And it is pretty cool to hear these names and to hear them be sorted and to hear them later on. I mean, some of these children who are now reading as 11-year-olds, we know they die. Like... Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, these people die.
These children.
Yeah.
I mean, they're children when they die in the latter books. Like, we know which of these children will be dying because of he who must not be named.
Right. And you think about the little photographer kid in the Chamber of Secrets. He croaks. You know, Lavender Brown, she croaks.
And Chamber of Secrets are just petrified.
No, but he dies in later films.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant in the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, no. But from the Chamber of Secrets, when we get introduced to him, it is what it is. Kate Duggan says, this is a staged, ritualized event. Silliness is so different from the Muggle world. Interesting. I like that. I do want to get to the Sorting Hat, but right before we get to the Sorting Hat, there's this excellent passage that the author writes that puts you into the pathos of Harry, and that is this: a horrible thought struck Harry, as horrible thoughts always do when you're very nervous. What if he wasn't chosen at all? What if he just sat there with the hat over his eyes for ages until Professor McGonagall jerked it off his head and said there had obviously been a mistake and he'd better get back on the train? How incredible for an 11-year-old to feel like that. And again, we've talked about this and we've joked about it. This is a children's book. For someone to write that in a children's book, to get into the mind of that kind of that insecurity, it proves yet another facet and another layer of intentional insecurity. Something that Harry suffers from. I mean, even though he's seeing his friends get sorted into Gryffindor and he wants to be with his friends, he's seeing his families, he's getting some kind of comfort from the whimsy of Hogwarts. He still doesn't feel a part. He still feels like it's a mistake. I remember when I first started dating Mary.
Ooh.
When I first started dating Mary.
Way back when.
I knew I outkicked my coverage. I was definitely punching above my weight class. And I remember, even though I was in my mid-20s, thinking, this has got to be a game show. Like, there's no reason a girl like that should be talking to a jabroni like me.
Oh, please.
It's true. It just shouldn't happen. And I remember always feeling like someone was going to pull the rug out from underneath me. And I was just waiting for that hammer to drop constantly. So when I hear that, I totally relate. And it is such an interesting way in for the reader to understand the pain and the insecurity that Harry's going through at that moment. And you're getting these great characterizations, not only of Malfoy and not only of Harry and Neville. You understand that Neville thinks, just number 4, Mary. Mary's touching the camera here. And you can use your own keyboard, Marvin.
Go for it.
So sorry for those of you who are listening on the who are listening on the podcast app. You aren't getting the benefit of Mary touching the cameras. You're getting all of these great characters.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, you're getting all these great characterizations of these characters, like Neville thinking like that his family wasn't sure if he could be a wizard. Like there are these levels that even though you're from these great big wizarding families, like what Neville is from, you may not be a wizard. And I find that fascinating. I find that totally fascinating.
You'll be a squib.
Yeah, right. But
like Dumbledore's sister.
Right.
Didn't go to Hogwarts. Yeah, I mean, you can be in straight up wizard families and sadly be a squib.
But so again, like the exercise that we did last chapter, if you can tell me about a character, don't tell me their name, don't tell me what they look like, and don't tell me their job. If you can do those things and give me a characterization outside of those things, you've got a well-written character. And for all of them that we've been given here, you're getting that.
Yeah.
You're getting that in spades. And I find that so impressive.
So we get to also learn about these house ghosts that Blake is, out on, which is okay. But we meet like the Bloody Baron, who just looks really, really freaky and is covered in blood. And Nearly Headless Nick, who runs who's for the Ghost for Gryffindor, he says he has never asked him why he's covered in blood. Imagine that. Being with a bloke that long, never asking him, why are you covered in blood? And we get to see all of these children be sorted. Some of them are sorted very, very quickly. Draco Malfoy, for example, he has the hat barely on his head and it's Slytherin right away. We get to Hermione and it takes a little while. Hermione, we find out the hat was trying to decide between Ravenclaw and Gryffindor. We find that out, actually, meaning me or anyone else who wants to go to Pottermore. Harry gets to have kind of this conversation with the hat. So maybe the hat's feeling this presence of Voldemort in him, seeing that Harry, because the truth of the matter is, had Harry been put in Slytherin, he would have done great things. He would have been terrible, just like Ollivander would have said about Voldemort. Terrible things, but he would have done great there. And it is very interesting because, for example, Peter Pettigrew was sorted into Gryffindor, but had a lot of traits of Slytherin. And now, mind you, I feel like Gryffindor and Slytherin are very closely linked when you look at their traits. They're both very ambitious. They're both kind of like willing to go above and beyond, even if it's not safe. Whereas Hufflepuffs and Ravenclaws are going to take more time to, make sure that the situation is valid. They're going to do the research, and Gryffindors and Slytherins are quick to act.
Right.
So it's interesting to kind of see a couple of these people who have these moments where the hat stalls, and it's called a hat stall. Minerva McGonagall.
Yes, she had one. They didn't the hat maker sit there for like
5
hours?
minutes.
Oh, yeah, 5 minutes. Sorry.
Over 5 minutes is a hat stall. So imagine just sitting there with like the hat on your head. And it was trying to debate for Minerva between Ravenclaw and Gryffindor, and it ended up, of course, choosing Gryffindor. And there was someone else that I was thinking about who definitely had a hat stall. I'll remember it at some point, but yeah, it's interesting where, it's a unique process that this hat can do.
I find, and this is when I want to get into this conversation about how the sorting hat in the houses and everything. I would say that the hat is great because it makes sure that the students have a house, they have a family, and they're not all the same, but they have qualities that can emulate each other. And again, it gives them a sense of belonging, which is important, and especially when it comes to Harry. And because the hat is talking to him. He's saying, oh, you got talent. He's giving him compliments, something that he's never gotten from anybody in his life. And he's finally getting compliments. And he's
from a hat. Probably very stinky hat.
And he's already saying you'll do great things, which starts to give us foreshadowing about his impending battle with not only he who shall not be named, but the rest of the school itself. I mean, whether it's Malfoy or even House Slytherin, right? What's wonderful about the use of houses is that it essentially breaks it down. I don't want to say black and white, but it breaks it down for you because Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, especially Hufflepuff, but Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff are kind of like just thrown to the side a little bit, in my opinion.
In these books.
But even in the movies too. I would say in the movies, you don't get a real good sense of who's in Ravenclaw. It feels like Gryffindor and Slytherin are the premier houses. That's where people go.
I think they're the houses that people talk about because they're the houses that want the glory and get in trouble.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But, and it's funny because they're almost, they're similar, yet very different.
Yes.
And that's why they make great antagonists, Gryffindor and Slytherin, for each other, right?
Yes.
Because they both kind of want the same thing. They both kind of want recognition. They're just going about it in two different ways.
But that's why I think some characters, like Slughorn is Slytherin, and Regulus Black, who we know plays a pivotal role in destroying a Horcrux, was Slytherin. And then exactly like we were saying, Peter Pettigrew and even James Potter, who was kind of a jerk for his youth, Gryffindor. So I agree with you that there's a lot of similarities. And that's why I love that quote that Dumbledore gives later on, that maybe people are sorted too soon.
Sure.
But on the flip side, by being sorted in these houses, you're often with people who think and act in ways that are similar to you, which might be really nice. Like, when you go to college and you get this roommate who's really, 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 really different than you. Or like if you're a talker like me and then you get somebody who like doesn't want to talk and is really socially awkward. Or if you've got, just think about it. Like these people probably have quite similar drives and goals. So to be around those kind of like-minded people, one of the things that bothers me about the being sorted in houses with the house points is that it's like a group project, but all year long. Like you're really hoping that the people in your house keep their acts together or else they're going to keep losing you house points. But on the flip side, those people in your house are a lot like you. So the things that are making your house lose points, you've probably lost some of those points yourself.
Something that has also popped up, I think, in this style story, it's not just the magicality of Harry Potter, but I think in general, like you're seeing stories where, especially young adult stories, where people are being sectioned, like Divergent. People are sectioned into groups, like you are X and this person is Y. You are useful here. The Hunger Games, you are sectioned into districts, and each district does a thing, and that thing is what you are, right? I think this is indicative of people really liking the idea of being categorized. Like we're doing it right now, right? You're wearing a Slytherin t-shirt and I'm wearing a Gryffindor t-shirt. We're doing it ironically, but we're having fun with it, right? But oddly enough, I take real pride in the fact that I'm a Slytherin. I took real pride in the fact that I just found out that Lin-Manuel Miranda is a Slytherin. I was like, oh, he's a part of my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it says, this is you.
Yeah.
You belong here. This is part of you.
I mean, I chose to live in a specific dorm because I wanted to be with fellow people who were in the honors program in college. I even know that shortly after I left, they even made it available that you could be on certain dorms and floors with your same exact majors. That they found that was useful for people. And yes, you can choose otherwise, but to know that you're going to be having similar styles, in some ways, granted, there's still people, Hermione and Harry or Hermione and Ron are very, very different people. But on the flip side, there's a lot of them that is the same.
Right. Also getting into this notion, too, that Harry has the ability to negotiate with the Sorting Hat. The fact that the Sorting Hat even considers with him, I mean, Harry is sitting here saying, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. And the Sorting Hat says back to him, not Slytherin, eh? Said the small voice. Are you sure? You could be great, It's all in your head, and Slytherin will help you get on that way to greatness. No doubt about that. No? Well, if you're sure, better be Gryffindor!
They did so many things word for word from the book and the movie.
They absolutely did. It really is a treat how they did this. The fact that Harry has the ability to negotiate with him also speaks to this notion that Harry, everything has been happening to Harry. Everything has been going on around him. We talked about Harry finally making choices and finally doing something, but those were for other people in those instances. Like Malfoy was making fun of Ron, and Malfoy goes to shake, Harry's hand, and like he doesn't shake the hand, and he's buying things for Ron. But this is the first thing that he does that it's for him, and it's something that not only means a lot to him, but it effectively alters the plot in a massive way. This sorting of Gryffindor puts him with the people that he finds himself most comfortable. And it shows you that, yes, things have been happening to Harry, and his fame is just given, but he still has the ability to make himself what he needs to be. He can do things that are great. He can do things that are important, and he's in control of that.
What I love about this Sorting Hat song, because I think a lot of people, Blake, will joke about Hufflepuff. And what I find with the song, and just through getting to know the different houses, whether you like to do some deep dives in Pottermore, is that really everyone has strengths. Everyone has strengths, and it's all about seeing those strengths, seeing the glass is half full and putting you with people who have similar strengths so that you can grow together. I did find it interesting how Sir Nicholas ends up, when Harry makes it onto Gryffindor, how Sir Nicholas says like, oh, well, we got to win the House Cup. Slytherin's won it the past 6 years. So is Slytherin essentially the Yankees or the Patriots?
Oh, don't you dare call House Slytherin the Yankees.
Why not?
Because the Yankees suck, and they always will suck forever.
Right? But isn't that how everybody feels about Slytherin when you're first reading the first book? Well, but when everyone reads the first book for the first time, they're not like, guess what? I want to be in Slytherin. Like, nobody in the first book feels that way. As you grow and as you grow in your journey with Potter, you may find out that you're Slytherin, and you own it and you love it. But I feel like 6-time champions, I mean, that could be the better part of someone's school career. They could have always won the House
That's true, yeah.
Cup.
And that's got to be annoying.
Right?
I like how Dumbledore in his chat, when he's like, yeah, you know what? Hey, that hallway, don't go in there. Oh yeah, that forest, don't go in there. To a bunch of kids. Right? It's like, yeah, don't do this. Do a
little wink.
The first thing that part of me thinks that he knows Harry is going to get in there. Part of me thinks that he's doing it on purpose. Do you agree with this statement or not?
Do you want me to take the stance of I like Dumbledore or I don't like Dumbledore?
Don't care. I want you to go with your gut.
Well, that's the problem. I'm 50-50 on my Dumbledore love-hate.
Well, then what do you got?
Okay, so my Dumbledore half-love is he's just protecting these kids. And as Percy says, yeah, he's serious about that. I mean, people who've gone to the school, they know that there's some dangerous things, and we just don't go into the forest. And if he says, don't go in that wing, we're not going to go in the wing. Like, maybe there's a troll that's being dissected, or who knows what. But the part of me that doesn't like Dumbledore knows that Dumbledore knows that he has to sacrifice Harry for the lamb that he is.
Right.
But
does he know?
Does he think by saying that Harry's going to try it? I don't think so.
Does he know that saying that puts Harry on that path?
I think he knows having Quirrell there is going to put him on that path. And I think that he knows by having Mad-Eye Moody, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, not Mad-Eye Moody, puts him on that path. Like, Dumbledore uses Harry as bait.
Yes.
I think he could have done a lot better to hide the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yes. You're right. You're 100% right.
Why give Harry the invisibility cloak? Just put the Sorcerer's Stone under that. Problem solved.
Yeah, and then that's it. So...
like, seriously.
And we also have to acknowledge here that if he doesn't do that, even if it wasn't intentional... If he doesn't do it, then this series probably doesn't exist.
No,
right?
I appreciate that. That's why I have a love-hate relationship with Dumbledore.
The story has to make concessions for the story to be a thing. You understand?
So in the first book, we're supposed to be cool with Dumbledore, and I don't think he's doing anything maliciously from the first book perspective.
Right. And as cool as we're supposed to be with Dumbledore, we are supposed to be immediately hateful of one Professor Severus Snape. Harry, who started to feel warm and sleepy, looked up at the high table again. Hagrid was drinking deeply from his goblet. Professor McGonagall was talking to Professor Dumbledore.
Hagrid's always boozing.
And a Quirrell in his absurd turban was talking to a teacher with greasy black hair, a hooked nose, and sallow skin. It happened very quickly. The hook-nosed teacher looked past Quirrell's turban straight into Harry's eyes, and a sharp, hot pain shot across the scar on Harry's forehead. Ouch! Harry clapped a hand to his head. What is it? Asked Percy. Nothing. The pain had gone as quickly as it had come. Harder to shake off was the feeling that Harry had got from the teacher's look. A feeling that he didn't like Harry at all.
Could it be just,
Wow, it's Lily's eyes.
I didn't mean it in the Harry lust. Please delete that. Straight up, Blake, okay?
Angela says Hagrid is #Hagrid Wasted.
Thank you, Angela.
That is going to be the t-shirt for this
Yes.
episode. Thank you, Angela. So is it possible that he sees Lily's eyes in Harry? Yeah.
Everybody does.
Absolutely, because everybody does.
But he looks just like James Potter.
And that's the thing. That is the thing. He sees James. And he already assumes that...
Is he sitting there imagining Harry looking like him instead?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, oh, I'm going to add long, greasy hair, make a little weird nose. All right. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Weird.
Like he sees James and he's like, this is my chance. Snape's, and I hate to use this word again, but Snape's pathos is phenomenal in every ounce. In every ounce. I love Snape. Snape is by far my favorite character of this book, of this entire series, because he is, not only is he misunderstood in many ways, but Harry is always wrong about Snape all the time.
Harry is literally wrong like almost all the time except 2 times.
Harry is wrong about everything. And I love the fact that Harry, the protagonist, the main character, is constantly wrong.
Definitely not a Ravenclaw.
Absolutely a
Doesn't think things
Gryffindor.
through.
Nope, absolutely a Gryffindor. And I like the fact that Snape looks at Harry and definitely sees James. And this is his chance to finally, you know, when you get into an argument with somebody and like a half hour later, you're like, oh, I should have said this. I should have said this because then screw them. It would have been way better.
Yes.
That's what Snape is essentially living that life right now. And he finally has the opportunity to take all the crap that James gave him and then give it back to Harry.
I mean, he actually also has the weight of Dumbledore having told him, we learned this in many, many books forward, so this is your first time to Harry Potter. Sorry about this, but Dumbledore tells him, like, it's going to be your job to protect him. Mm-hmm. So just the conflict. So the look that he gives Harry is conflict.
Yes. And that's part of the conflict, I think. The part of the conflict is, I can't wait to get back at James. But I also have to protect this kid because Lily and I love Lily and I've made an oath. I have to do this. The funny thing is that I think Snape's assumption of Harry is that he's just like James.
They could have been really good friends, Snape and Harry.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I think Harry is a lot more humble than James was.
Agreed.
I think that's actually a defining characteristic of Harry's.
Agreed.
As brave as he is, and as like, even though he doesn't think before he acts, his humility is a major portion of what he does.
And yet Snape thinks because he looks like James that he is going to carry on his father's cockiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I find that fascinating.
Agreed.
I think it's fantastic because both characters are wrong about each other, but we as readers, at least until this point, have to side with Harry no matter what.
You know, fun fact.
What's that?
Hogwarts is in Scotland.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. You always picture it like in England.
Yep. Nope.
But
nope.
it's in Scotland, which is really cool. Can we talk for a moment? Can we give a moment for our, like, do you know who you want for your different perspective person? Or do we want to say that to the end?
I was going to do Snape, but I already kind of gave it away.
Can we just have a moment then for Neville? Neville Longbottom. Neville Longbottom.
Wait. I still want to talk about one thing before we get into our different perspective.
Go for it.
The dream sequence.
Oh, yes.
The dream sequence is phenomenal. It is phenomenal because it lays out for you
everything.
And you don't even know it yet.
No.
You don't even know it. You don't even know about the turban, why the turban's there.
You don't know that Harry and Voldemort are like psychically kind of connected. And
right.
Yep.
And is he already feeling that psychic connection? Mm-hmm. How he's putting Snape into it, and Malfoy, who both make him feel like that Harry does not belong at Hogwarts.
You want to get real deal?
Sure.
It goes from he sees Malfoy, then he sees him morph into Snape, and then he sees the green light. How interesting that Malfoy was supposed to be the one that kills, cover your ears, Dumbledore, and it ends up being Snape, who then gets killed by Voldemort with the green light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's just like, here's things in the future. Like, these are main players. You can uncover your ears.
Right. And it's also not coincidence that Snape and Malfoy are, and Voldemort, and is Quirrell Slytherin?
I don't know where Quirrell's sorted. Hold on a second.
Question.
I would feel like Quirrell was a Ravenclaw, but I don't know. Okay, I'll get back to you.
Yes. Okay. I will vamp for you. Go ahead. Keep going. But regardless of whether or not Quirrell is in
Ravenclaw.
Oh, he's Raven. Okay.
Oh my God. Am I a sorting hat?
It's not a coincidence.
He was a half-blood.
Oh, really?
Voldemort inhabited a half-blood. What?
Right. It's not a coincidence that Snape and Malfoy are in the stream, and Voldemort are in the stream, and it's actually the turban, Quirrell's turban, that does something to Harry, not Quirrell himself. The turban.
Because Voldemort's right there.
Right. So it's not a coincidence that all these things are Slytherin related.
Yes.
And because they're Slytherin related, they resemble, or they are indicative of power and greed and all the things that are opposite of bravery. Mm-hmm. And getting back to the houses and what this does for the story, it easily delineates a line, the black and white of it all, which is Slytherin bad, Gryffindor good. And if you are in Team Gryffindor, you're a good guy. If you're on Slytherin, you're a bad guy. And that is the conflict that Harry has through the rest of the series. And that's why it's so easily definable for us as viewers or readers. And that's why I think it's so popular in these style novels, because it gives you an in-story, in-universe way to say good guy, bad guy.
Can I read for you a quick little segment from the Wizarding World about Professor Quirrell?
Go ahead.
The author writes that I saw Quirrell as a gifted but delicate boy who would have probably been teased for his timidity and nerves during his school life. Feeling inadequate and wishing to prove himself, he developed an interest in the dark arts. Like many people who seem to be insignificant, even laughable, Quirrell had a latent desire to make the world sit up and notice him. So he set out deliberately to find out whatever remained of the Dark Wizard, partly out of curiosity, partly out of that unacknowledged desire for importance. At the very least, Quirrell fantasized that he would be the one man who tracked Voldemort down, but at best might learn skills from Voldemort that would ensure he would never be laughed at again.
I like it. Mm-hmm. All right, Marvin, you got anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I would love to get to emails, though. People had sent in some questions, right?
Do you want to take Neville's perspective?
Oh, sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so here's just poor Neville, who, like, his parents, as we find out in later books, were trying to fight against Voldemort. They ended up getting just absolutely, I want to say crucio. They just got tortured. They got tortured and driven absolutely batty because of the torture that they went through. So he was actually raised by his grandmother. Now, his grandmother and all of his older relatives treated Neville like crud because he didn't necessarily show a lot of magical prowess. He's not even given his own wand at first. He's given like a loner wand, which, as we know, Ron gets a hand-me-down wand. When it's not your own wand that chooses you, it doesn't work that well. So his magical talent isn't even going to be at its full potential. Sure. So he blooms a little late magically. He's given a toad. I mean, because they were excited, but still like a toad, ruh-roh. But really, Neville ends up being an integral part of this series and in the defeat of Voldemort. So he's a really interesting character to follow along.
That he is a true Gryffindor.
And he spent a lot of time actually talking with the Sorting Hat, begging the Sorting Hat to put him in Hufflepuff, because the Sorting Hat right away said, "You're a Gryffindor, you are brave," and he was arguing the entire time saying, "I'm not brave enough to be in Gryffindor."
Right. And somebody mentioned in one of our first episodes that Harry was taking the hero's journey, and part of the hero's journey is denying that beginning portion of the journey. You could make an argument that the story really is about it's not really about, but Neville is just as important a character as Harry. And there is...
It's like Voldemort should have watched out for 2 July babies.
Absolutely. And Neville is taking the more traditional path of the hero's journey. Gets proposed in action, go to Hogwarts, denies his inclusion in Hogwarts, doesn't believe that he's magical enough, doesn't believe that he is brave enough to become part of Gryffindor, wants one other thing, eventually does go on that path and proves at the end that he is, in fact, not only Gryffindor, but the one true Gryffindor.
I think he proves that within this book, and we will get to that when the chapter arises.
Sure, absolutely. Laura here on Facebook says, I always found it interesting that purebloods followed Voldemort, even though he was a half-blood. Yes, absolutely. That is a great comment. And you could argue that, Voldemort's probably based on or is at least inspired by Hitler, who was in fact himself half Jewish. So there is precedent for something like that. So, yes, absolutely. All right. we got some emails here.
Woo-hoo.
All right. So ladies and gents, we are going to have the emails. We're going to go through them. And if you have any other questions, if you're joining us on the live, please propose them on the live. If you are listening to us on the podcast app,
Woo!
After all this is said and done, don't worry. You can email us. Just go to maryandblake.com and just do the message there, or email us at maryandblakemedia@gmail.com, or join us live next time when we go live Mondays and Wednesdays, usually 8 or 8:30ish on...
It will be more 8:30 on Wednesday.
Yes, okay. On any of the 4 major platforms, whether it is Instagram, Twitter, Facebook,
YouTube.
Or YouTube. Yes, we will be there. So that is that. All right, first email. This one comes from Casey. She says, I'm an episode behind, but I'm enjoying your dive into Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, a.k.a. K. Thank you for that, Casey.
Glad that lives on.
I was wondering about Ollivander's comment to Harry about Lily coming in to buy her first wand. This implies that she had to get another. Did something happen to her first wand? Do many wizards end up getting different wands throughout their lives? The wand wizard and witch bond is so strong that it seems like a mate for life situation. That was a good point by your listener about Ron's wand being hand-me-down. Bye for now. Thank you for all that you do. I think implicit in that comment, you are right, Casey, that Lily did in fact get at least more than one wand, and it does feel like, because the wand chooses the wizard, that it is a life mate sort of connection between them. In the films, I can't speak to the books because I can't remember specifically, but the films, Harry always says that the Elder Wand never felt like his at any point. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like his wand.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any textual evidence to suggest that...
There is nothing saying that Lily's wand broke, that she needed a second wand.
Yeah.
I wish that Ollivander just said during her first year instead of her first wand, because, there's nothing that I can find saying that Lily Potter needed a second wand.
Yeah, it feels like he's just saying, when she first came in to get her wand. Like, that's what it feels like. But there's a great question there, so thank you for asking, Casey.
Ali on YouTube says, do you think the Sorting Hat got it wrong for anyone?
That's a good question. I don't know enough to suggest that the Sorting Hat got anybody wrong.
I think people's perceptions, negative perceptions or positive perceptions, can be wrong about the house. For example, one could argue that Peter Pettigrew, he got it wrong. He should have been sorted in Gryffindor. But Peter Pettigrew, this little lump of a boy, found Voldemort and like cut off his hand for Voldemort.
Right.
And did things that one might argue are very, very, very brave. You know?
Right.
I wouldn't say noble. I wouldn't say chivalrous.
But
I
brave.
would say brave if that's the side of the coin that you're looking towards.
Well, it's like what Ollivander says to Harry. The guy who had its brother did terrible things. Great, but terrible.
Yeah, the qualities that the Sorting Hat says for Gryffindor: brave at heart, daring, nerve, and chivalry. So I think Peter Pettigrew was daring, had a lot of nerve.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Suzanne says, I think y'all should do a Doc Ots thing to replace the After Doc show. I kind of like that, the Doc Ots class.
We'll see.
I kind of like that.
We'll see.
Maybe, we'll see.
Okay, so Savannah, is that how let's see, Savannah Ma.
Savannah, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
It was a typo.
Okay, says, hi, Mary and Blake. Do you think Hogwarts shows favoritism towards Gryffindor?
Mary will read what I
will
write.
read, whatever. He's the only founder whose relic has been retained by the school since the existence of the Chamber of the Secrets isn't confirmed until the next book. And both the diadem and Hufflepuff's cup are not in the grounds due to Voldemort making them his Horcruxes.
So I don't think it was by choice that the other relics are gone. Obviously, like they would have kept all of the relics. If Voldemort didn't steal them. So do I find that there's favoritism towards Gryffindor? I think we all have biases about that because Dumbledore is a Gryffindor.
Yeah.
So
and Dumbledore, I believe, had the sword of Gryffindor, so that's why it's at the school.
right. And the other issue I think that we have here too is that our main characters, the ones that we are following throughout this journey, are in fact Gryffindor.
Imagine like the book series written from Luna Lovegood's perspective, like all the stuff that she did to help out, Dumbledore's army and just all the adventures that she would have gone on, or anybody. Cedric Diggory, R.I.P. I just, exactly. This is taken from Harry's perspective. It's taken from Gryffindor's perspective. So that's why they get so much more showtime.
Yes. And again, it's Gryffindor and Slytherin, bad guy, good guy. That's what it really comes down to. Allie asks, now that we're getting in, because that was the last email, we'll get into some of the comments or
I
questions.
just asked Allie's question. Do you think the Sorting Hat got it wrong for anyone?
Oh, sorry.
But Rebecca Ann, scroll down.
Yep.
There you go.
This was when I was trying to get at. Sorry.
She says, "Which Dumbledore do you like better in films and why? First or second?"
Richard Harris, the first one. And it's not even close. And it's not because he was first. He just feels more like Dumbledore, like caring. He has a sort of like frailty about him.
He's got some nitwick, blubber, oddment, and tweak to him.
Yes, he does. He absolutely does. But it feels very grandfatherly. It feels very just warm. And the second Dumbledore, oh God, I can't remember his name at the moment. Just doesn't have that. He doesn't have that.
He gets it in 6.
He gets it in 6. He has it in 8.
Yes.
But Richard Harris is definitely where it's at. Dawn says you can win a wand in a duel. You absolutely can. And that's how the Elder Wand changes hands. But it still doesn't mean that it's the right wand for you. Let's see what else we got here. Any other questions do we have?
We'll get some more next week when they're mailed in. This was so great to have you guys send us some emails. Thank you so much.
Melissa says, can there be a wrong house? Can't everyone portray all the characteristics of each house in some way, shape, or form? Because that's part of being human. Mm-hmm. So even if you're in a house that maybe doesn't represent your strongest traits, you can still end up doing well there. And maybe in some way it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and the house ends up shaping the person.
I think that's what happened for Hermione.
Because she easily could have been a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. It was stalling, and I think she would have just been very, very happy in Ravenclaw, and I think she would have really excelled there as well and still been the smartest witch in their class. But I think that because she was put in Gryffindor, like Melissa said, that had pushed her a little bit more in a different direction. That also helped her blossom.
Mm-hmm. We have some other questions in here, I think, but
we can't see it easily.
yeah, sorry. We'll get to them later. So, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Like this might be our way to close it out. Yeah, we are at an hour for this podcast, so it's time to close it out. You got anything else that you want to talk about, Marvin, before we let go of everybody?
I did want to thank people who've written a review for us. So thank you once again for taking the time to write on your podcast app of choice to give us a written review. Five stars is greatly appreciated. We want to thank Girl in Korea, who said, another great one from this entertaining couple. I discovered these guys through their Outlander podcast. It's so much fun to join them and experience the Potterverse through their unique, hilarious, and very entertaining perspectives. Mary's just the sweetest Gryffindor that you ever wanted to meet, and Gryffindor Blake is another Slytherin like Snape, who reminds me that not all from that house are bad guys. If you're a Potterhead or just want to explore the movies and books together in an entertaining way, I highly recommend this podcast.
Very nice. Angela says, hey, Blake and Mary, did you know that Stephen Wolfenden from Outlander was the second director for the last 5 Potter movies? Yes, he was, in fact. He worked very closely with David Yates, and I think he even worked closely with David Yates on the Fantastic Beasts series as well.
Ooh.
So there you go for a little Outlander trivia.
Little crossover,
The
right?
guy who directed a lot of the Outlander episodes is the second unit director for Harry Potter.
Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody.
Yes. All right. So let's close this bad boy out.
Please.
Thank you so much.
Once again, we want to remind you that if you enjoy these podcasts and want to help contribute in any way to keep it going, you can go to jointhenerdclan.com. It is the same thing as outlandercastclan.com. And even if you're not necessarily a fan of Outlander, but you are a fan of Harry Potter and you want to support the Potterverse and Blake and myself, you can head on over there to become a patron of ours for as little as $2 a month. It really goes a long way to keep all this going, and we really want to thank all of our patrons there at jointhenerdclan.com or outlandercastclan.com for making all this possible.
And if we get enough popularity for it, maybe we will do a Doc Ots show. The Doc Show. Well, I don't know what we're going to call it yet, but we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
For those of you who just at jointhenerdclan.com, when all the nerds can enjoy more Mary and Blake in a more personal, vibrant setting.
We do want to remind you, too, that you can get a text reminder by texting the number 81010 and in the message at Elderwan. That way I can let you know if you'd like to join us live on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. We'd love to have you join the conversation.
That's right. Well, I think that's it for now.
My name's Mary.
My name's Blake.
Mischief managed.